Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining us. My name is Daryl Urbanski, your host as always. And today we are joined by my friend, serial entrepreneur, and spoken word artist, Dimitriy Koslov. Dimitri's purpose is to accelerate the evolution of love through inspiring and empowering influencers. He does it with his latest venture, Influex, which builds epic personal brand sites for online influencers. His other primary ventures include Vision Tech Team, the tech team for visionaries, and Maverick Next, a network for exceptional young entrepreneurs. You may remember our first interview with him on the topic of the difference between 6, 7, and 8-figure businesses. Well, today I've asked him to come back and talk about what we can do to have more influence and better brand recognition in our circles.
I am excellent. Really good to reconnect. Over the many years that we've known each other, it's always really good to have these touch points where we get to catch up and share what's going on in our worlds in a way that's valuable for the people that are listening to you and following what you're doing. So always an honor to be here. Thank you for bringing me in.
Yeah, man, it's an honor and a pleasure. So we're just talking a little bit about life, love, life, and happiness and traveling and that it's important to kind of have balance in your world, or at least, balance for an entrepreneur, so to speak. But that's important that you take care of the different areas of your life and make sure that you're coming from a good place. One of the things that I love about your updated bio is that you're trying to help accelerate the evolution of love. Can you talk about that a little bit?
Yeah, I jump right into the purpose question. Absolutely. I believe that we all, as humans, have ultimately a singular purpose, which is to give our greatest expression of love in the world. The way that we each do that is different and unique based on what our unique makeup, path, journey, story is. And what I found for myself was that the way that I give love the most, and I phrased it as accelerate the evolution of love, being like bringing our culture, economy, our world towards love and connection, and towards remembering that we're all made of love and that we're all meant to live as love, accelerating the evolution towards that world faster. And I believe that most of us who have awakened to that as a belief are on that same journey. And we all do that through our own unique ways, in business, in art, in whatever our unique expressions are in the world. For me personally, I've found that has been through inspiring influencers, in that, like, awakening them to their greatness and then empowering them, which is what we do with our tools and the various companies and brands and that I have. So a lot of the artistry side of me is the inspiring, a lot of the business side is the empowering entrepreneurs and other influencers to bring forth their dharma in the world.
And I love how you mentioned that. So I kind of want to dig deeper on this a little bit. So you say, like, you want to inspire and empower influencers. So where, like you mentioned with the tools and the companies that you've got, but what is it typically that these influencers struggle with? Like, how do they help you push forward the evolution of love, and what is it that they're getting tripped up with?
Yeah. So I believe all people who self-identify as influencers, or who step into that as a chosen identity for themselves, whether that's entrepreneurs or they're podcasters like what you're doing here, or they're writers, they're somehow out there giving a message to the world. They're typically doing that because they want to see a better world. So that's kind of how I encapsulate influencers within the context of accelerating the evolution of love. Now, that's not always the case. Sometimes there's more egoic reasons and whatever, but it's pretty easy to identify when somebody's doing something because that's, a really genuine gift that they're giving to the world versus versus something that's more ego driven. So that's kind of the context, the definition. As far as what they get stuck with, ultimately it's anything and everything, because all of us on this journey of life, when going to give our gifts to the world, have challenges that we run into. For the particular gift that I felt that I've had to the world, at least as part of my journey at this stage, has been around supporting people with the very specific challenge of getting up really great sites, brands, funnels, everything along those lines, so that they can give their gifts and their expression more fully. That's not to say that that's the only thing people get tripped up with and need empowerment around. There's plenty of other things, and there's plenty of other things for other people to solve for these light bringers, for these influencers in the world. My specific domain has been in the arena of the web world because I've been able to build a really great team that solves this problem for people.
Right. So even in the web world, like you said, like they get stuck. Is it the tech stuff? I mean, that's how we first met. For those that don't know Dimitriy, like him and I met. We were working with a mutual client, and he was kind of like the go-to guy that you wanted to work with if you were doing anything big and you wanted to be presentable and you wanted your stuff to work. Because a lot of these guys that we were dealing with at the time, they're kind of running and gunning. It's not necessarily like they're in a closet planning something for 6 months and perfecting it and then launching it. It's like, no, we launched it yesterday. Now we have to put it together and get it out there. We got to get it done. And Dimitriy was the guy that could do that and help kind of bring method to the madness, so to speak, and kind of, and help plan things out. And so where is it that people how has that changed in today's day and age? Or at least what are the parts that what does someone need? If someone's listening to this and they're like, or even me, I have a podcast and I already have assets up, but if I were to come to you or somebody else again was to say, hey, I've got an audience and I've got a message, what is it that they need to in order to help get their message out there in the world?
Yeah, I'd say one of the most important things, and there's a lot, right? Everybody will sell you their particular approach in their system. So disclaimer is this is what I believe, obviously, and there's different approaches to doing this. And some people believe, hey, you don't really need branding, and you don't need a personal site, and you don't need a corporate site. You just need a funnel and drive traffic to that funnel. And that's one approach. And I'm not dismissing that approach. Or other people say you just need a really good content engine and more of a blog, but it doesn't have to be about you and all of that. For me personally, part of the work that we do that I believe is really important is owning yourname.com or some version of that, yourname.ca or yourname.net or yournameconsulting.com, depending on what's available, building a personal brand site around that, which includes you telling your story, giving your primary message, having your blog on there, building authority and credibility, and then doing so in a way that generates leads and results.
I mean, what's kind of the current suite of tools, I guess, is kind of what I'm asking that you need to have.
Yeah, great question. I'll list a few, and then the ultimate disclaimer here is that if you just go out there and try to do everything that everybody else is doing, or everything everybody's selling you, you'll just spend an infinite amount of time, money, and energy building things without actually driving your business. So the key is okay, find the top few, and then really just double down and focus on what feels most relevant based on your strategy and based on your approach at this stage. So I do believe that everybody needs a website. I'll go back to this point in a sec of what that website could entail depending on what your business is. I do believe that everybody needs a Facebook fan page, primarily because whether you're doing Facebook ads now or not, at some point in your business, you very likely will be. It doesn't mean that right away you have to start doing a lot on your fan page, but it does mean that most likely when you start advertising, Facebook will very likely be the first place you start doing so, even if it's a couple dollars a day on retargeting some content. So I would say everybody needs a website and everybody needs a Facebook fan page. Most other social media profiles are you just have to ask yourself, is it worth the effort and I'm going to do something with it? YouTube is great, especially if you're going to do video, and especially if you're going to do a little bit of YouTube retargeting and driving video ads, right? But also not required.
Right.
Twitter, right, totally not required unless you're in a market where that's really relevant.
Right.
And same thing with most other social media profiles. LinkedIn can be amazing if you're doing the right things with it. I personally haven't updated my LinkedIn profile for 3 years.
Yes.
It's probably really awkward, and I talk about personal branding a lot. So maybe I need to get on that, but it hasn't had a detriment that I know of to my business yet. However, we do drive advertising on LinkedIn to recruit project managers for our company.
What are some of the things that we don't want?
Yeah. So if one of the things that we want, right, I'll give these 3 lenses, and then I'll say how people screw them up. Purpose, perception, personality are the 3 lenses, or 3 pillars of a perfect personal brand site. Number one thing being purpose, it's asking what's the primary purpose of your site? What do you want somebody to do? So we talked about that call to action. The biggest mistake people make in that is having 10 different things for people to do and not, if you look at a page that you're creating and you don't understand what the primary action and purpose that you're trying to drive on that page is, you're doing it wrong. Which most sites, including a lot of top brands out there that haven't, not necessarily top brands, but let's say a lot of big companies out there or major influencers out there really screw this up.
Yeah.
Right. And the bigger they grow, the more information they start putting on their site, and it just doesn't make sense. And as they clarify, all of a sudden their businesses grow but they get simpler. 2 is perception, and it's like asking, what do you want people to feel and remember as they experience you? And there's a really good Neil Patel article out there that says basically how spending $162,000 on clothes may be $692,000, and it's all about how he started walking into meetings after spending like 6 figures on clothes and doing nothing else different. But in those high-end clothes, he started making a lot more money on closing the deals.